Well, hello and welcome to a conversation with Cheri Fletcher. I am very excited about this conversation, but it's also a tough conversation. So, first, I want to say thank you, Cheri, for doing this and welcome.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, her article is entitled Grow Through Grief: How to Faithfully Rebuild Community After Loss. So, we're going to talk a little bit about your beautiful daughter and if you wouldn't mind sharing your story and how it introduced you to what you call the language of grief.
Thank you. I love talking about my daughter. Her name is Annie Lauren Fletcher, and she passed away in August of 2023 from colorectal cancer that it wasn't diagnosed. We didn't know what it was till after she passed away. She was, 29 and living her life, and one day she was having a hard time breathing, coughing, and so I told her to, you should start seeing a doctor pretty regularly, but 29 years old, what does
Mhm.
mom know? And then on August 11, she called and said, "Mom, I'm coughing up some blood." So a friend of mine who's a doctor, I texted him the picture she sent me, and he's like, "Get her in the emergency room right now and don't let them discharge her." And they tried, but when they tried, he texted me. He said, "I think it's time they met her mom." So I got her admitted, and that was a Thursday. And by the following Wednesday, she was on ECMO, which is a very extreme life support. And they were still couldn't figure out. They could not figure out what was going on in her lungs. They were testing her for pulmonary. She had oxygen levels dropping around 80, 79, and they did all these lung tests and couldn't figure it out. After they decided to do a lung transplant, they did a full body scan, and that's where they found a mass. They found that mass on a Tuesday, did a biopsy that night, but she passed away on Thursday, August 23. And it was, we didn't get testing back for a little bit. And it was a very rare, but very advancing, fast advancing colorectal cancer that I'm now finding, sadly, is becoming more and more common in adults under 50.
Mm. I am so
Yeah,
sorry. She is
thank you.
beautiful. I have seen her
She
pictures. Thanks
is,
for
she says,
sharing that.
yeah, she was a singer-songwriter in Nashville, so I've been working on trying to keep up her socials. I did produce helped produce one of her songs with her friends. So, you know, little gifts.
Yeah, I saw it. And I heard it. Saw the
Thank
video
you.
and it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. So you're so courageous. And I think, and the reason I like to have the authors from Butterfly Living come on and talk, because people can see you, what your words, they come to life. And we talk about these difficult conversations. It's easy to stay bitter or
Mm,
stay a victim and not help people with our story. Our scars are where we really, really make an impact in the kingdom. So I'm just so grateful that you're choosing this path as you walk and grow through grief.
thank you very much.
So, how did you realize you were becoming isolated at this time? You write about this and that you had to begin the process of rebuilding community.
Yeah. It's something that you don't think about right off the bat because you're in a shock. You're just shocked, and I think no matter what, even if you've been with someone that's slowly passing away or they've had a sickness for years, when someone finally does pass, it's still you're kind of numb and it's not you're not used to this. But when it happens in a, accident or very fast, kind of like an emotional whiplash,
Mhm.
um, but you start noticing um the people that aren't comfortable coming into your pain, the people that are scared of your pain, the people that don't know what to say, and you start noticing that few and more and more people are going back to their normal life, which they should. That's fine, but they're expecting you to be okay. We live in a culture in the Western culture where are you okay? Are you okay? Everything's okay, and they want you to be okay. And so they kind of look at you and like, okay, she looks okay. I'm just gonna back out now. And a lot of times people believe silence is a safety, but it's not a safety, it's a separation.
Mm,
Um, and like you mentioned, people can choose to be bitter. And I'm not going to say I haven't had moments of bitterness, and I still have moments of bitterness. I have moments of anger, moments of just deep depression. They're called emotional ambushes, I'm learning,
mm,
and I have them. And so when you do that, you can pull away and say, I just don't want to be around anybody. And then people don't want to be around you. So there's this wall of grief that is built. It just happens. And if you
mm,
aren't intentional, either the griever or those that are supporting the griever, that wall can just get higher and higher and thicker. And, the windows get closed up and the doors get bolted and resentment builds and things can just keep going. And so I started realizing like it's easier for me to ignore some of the things that are making me bitter or angry and not just sit and feel them or try to work through them. But also as a griever for myself, I've had to realize that people aren't intentionally trying to hurt me. People aren't intentionally trying to ignore me. Um, I need to maybe make some steps towards them and let them know it's okay. It's okay to approach, it's okay to talk. Um, People are scared to say something stupid, they're scared to say something hurtful. They don't know if they should bring up Annie's name, so they don't. And that's very painful. Or they don't feel safe talking about their children because they're thinking, well, I can't talk about my daughter getting married because her daughter, and so if I sense that, I've had a couple friends whose daughters have gotten married. I've brought it up and said, "Tell me about your daughter's wedding." And I've listened, and then I will say, "Oh, Annie would have loved that in her wedding too.
mm.
Annie wanted this in her wedding." And it breaks it. But then they're like, "Oh, okay, it's okay to talk about this." So as the griever, making an intentional opening for them to say, okay, it's okay to say something. So just it's such a delicate dance. And if
Mhm.
we don't pray a lot and accept accept people's mistakes and not get too hung up on being offended and we'll be isolated. And so yeah, just making intentional steps myself to come back to community or welcoming people into my grief.
Well, you are brave and you bring up so many really valid points. And you said it's a dance. And, of course, we're all surrounded by people that have lost different levels. But as you said, if we're not intentional, we will lose that relationship. So we have to at
Mhm.
least try to step in and say, I love you. I don't know what
Yeah,
to
that's
do.
it.
Even if we say that,
That's it.
I just don't know what to do.
One of the things that I've always hated, even prior to Annie passing away, was being told to hang in there.
Mm.
I've always been like, don't, why does that, is that supposed to be comforting when someone's having a hard day and you tell them to hang in there? What? And so, and so when people started saying that to me, like again, prior to Annie passing, I would say, God doesn't leave me to hang. He's not, he keeps
Yeah.
telling me that he's holding me. He's holding me with his righteous right hand. Well, after Annie passed, people that had heard me say that started texting me just the words held.
Mm.
I would just get a text that says, You're held today. I can't tell you how much that meant. Or as in you're grieving, it's an emotional, your whole body has a reaction. You have fuzzy brain, you have days you can't eat, days you can't even pray, days you don't even want to open the Bible, or you'll open the Bible and you'll be like, I don't even know what I'm reading. I have a girlfriend that texts me a Bible verse she has since the day Annie passed away, a Bible verse every day. I read this today. And that's all it is. I read this today. And there's ways that God holds us through music, through someone that drops off soup, from someone that just texts the word held, or somebody that texts a prayer, or like my friend that sends a Bible verse. To me, that's God saying, I know you can't pray today, so I'm going to have someone pray for you. I know you don't want to even know where to begin to read the Bible, so I'm going to have someone text you a Bible verse. That's God holding you.
That's beautiful. And it's showing you he sees you, he loves you.
Mhm.
And if someone really loves you when you're going through such a hard time, they will find a way to break through that
Yeah,
wall.
yeah,
And I love
for
that you're
sure.
receptive to the friends breaking through the wall. So you wrote, this is a quote from the article: when we sit with someone in their sorrow, when we cry together, when we say a name that still
Mhm.
carries weight, we are following the example of Jesus. We are choosing connection over correction, compassion over comfort zones. So, connection and compassion, what does that look like in a friendship?
Mhm.
Maybe you shared a story about the scripture, about being held. Maybe you have
Yeah.
some more insight to what that looks like.
Well, compassion, people that when they feel you listen to someone's story and you share their excitement. When someone's daughter is getting married, share that excitement. When someone's, you know, going to be a grandmother, I want to share that excitement. I see that as compassion as well. And so if I am, excited about your daughter getting married, I I love it if you're acknowledging the loss that I am not going to have that.
Mm.
And even saying, you know, my daughter's wedding was beautiful and thank you for asking about it. And I'm just so sorry. I mean, I'm so sorry. What would Annie have wanted in her wedding if Annie had gotten married? Because Annie and I talked about it. She was 29. She was dating someone. What would she have wanted? Compassion if I'm having a really bad day, or, I used to be very extroverted. I am an extrovert, but it's very weird. It costs a lot on my emotions. And so if you knew me prior and you see me after about 6:30 at night and I'm just not, just coming and sitting by me and not asking anything of me and just saying, yeah, she's kind of quiet. Maybe I'm just going to go sit by her and not leave me alone and not ignore me. That's a way of connecting, but it's
Yes.
not expecting anything of me.
Yes, that's
And that
beautiful.
like that Jesus wept. We talked about that in the
Hmm.
piece. He didn't
Yes.
he didn't come over and say God has a plan.
Yes.
He didn't say you're going to see him again. And Jesus knew all of that because it's
That's right.
true.
That's right.
But at that time he didn't. He sat there and he connected so strongly with them that he started crying. And that's all he
Hmm.
had to say. Jesus wept. And we all just go, wow. And when someone does that to me and doesn't come and say, God has a plan. You're going to see
Right.
Annie again. I know that.
Yeah.
just
That
just
doesn't
just
help. That doesn't help.
yeah, not at this moment. Just be
No.
quiet and connect with me at the same level Jesus connected with Mary and Martha.
Yeah, that's so important. I have a neighbor who lost her husband, and I gave out cookies for Christmas. I didn't even make the cookies. They were Starbucks cookies. And I thought, I can't give her these cookies. It seems so shallow to bring her
Mm-mm.
cookies. So I really thought about it, and I wound up bringing her a little scripture card and an ornament of Jesus. And I mean, not a big deal, but I think the important part about compassion is to stop and think about the person.
Mm-hmm.
What are they feeling, or what's important right now for them? And I think that will help us walk through grief with people
Yeah.
around us. So I really appreciate that. Your article's amazing. As I said, go over to butterflyliving.org and you can read the whole piece. It's wonderful, especially if you know someone who is grieving. So,
Yeah.
Cheri, share where people can connect with you, what you're working on. Cheri and I met at a conference about a year ago.
Yeah.
So I got to meet her in person. But what's going on? What's going on in your world? You shared about the song. Maybe give us a little more about that too.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking about that. My daughter has an Instagram. It's Annie Lauren Music on Instagram, and parts of the song are on that, and she's also on iTunes and Spotify. And then on my YouTube channel, which is not up and going because since she's passed away, I have not been doing podcasting or any of that, but it's up there. It's called Raise the Sail, and she actually wrote that song with Katie Reed, who is an author. because Katie needed a song for her book that was going to be coming out. And Katie and I were talking about it in 2022. She had not met Annie, and I just ran. She was talking about the need of someone to help her with a song that she had in her head, and she needed it to kind of get out. And I said, I just kind of flippantly said, "Oh, you should connect with my daughter." And at that time, Katie lived in Michigan, and about a month later, I get a picture of her in Nashville with my daughter at 11 o'clock at night, and they wrote the song in one night.
That's
And
great.
it was like, and now I have this song. And so Annie, when she passed away, she was dating a musician, and he and three of her friends who were singers as well. We got together, and he played the music and helped produce it. And then her friends sang. And it was just very special to have raised the sail out there with her stuff. And so, yeah,
What a
I
gift.
have a
What a gift for your
it is
family. That's just
it
beautiful.
is, and her voice is at the end of it. And when she was with Katie, she had just done this little thing on her phone, just done a little track of it on her phone. And at the end of it, she goes, I don't know, something like that. And we were able to put that at the end of the recording, so it's fun. But
I
thank
love
you.
that.
Yeah. So my social is cherifletcher.com. Am still writing my way through grief, processing it with my pen. And so that I do that on my website. I put out blogs and I have an email subscription. One thing as a writer, I love to keep the cards that people send me. If someone sends me a text that really touches me, I cut and paste it into a document. And I started collecting questions that people asked me that I really, really had fun answering. And one of them I talk about in the article I wrote for you, that I thought, wow, this person did not know Annie, and she just had a really hard day with her son getting his driver's license, and she just said, "This was the hardest day. What was it like teaching Annie to drive?" And I hadn't even thought about the story of Annie driving when she turned into the oncoming traffic. And so I got to share that with her. We were laughing, and I just wrote that down. I thought that was just the nicest thing anyone could do. So I started keeping a document of questions people asked me. And we were coming up on the 1 year, what I call anniversary. And I have two sons, both are newlyweds. One got married a year before Annie passed, and one got married 3 months after Annie
Oh,
passed.
wow.
Yeah, it was a rough.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Annie, I love my daughter-in-laws. Annie loved her sister-in-laws. Um, but we were going to get together for the 1 year. And if anyone has sons out there, if you ask a son on what their emotional life is like how are you doing? They're going to be like, fine. I don't know. Um, so I thought, how can we have a time together and talk about how our year has been since Annie's passed, share some fun memories without my boys cringing and my daughter-in-laws being very intimidated or overwhelmed because there's our newlyweds. And and God just really, I mean, this had to be a God moment. One day I thought, my kids love card games. What if I took those questions and put them on cards? And just we love to do card games. So I looked around first to see if there were grief communication type cards, like conversation tabletop, and there weren't, because we don't like to talk about grief.
No, we don't.
And so I still have more questions because I could only do 50 in the box and about 100 and some. So I took those and put them on staples and sent them off to Staples and had them printed on index cards, and I just had them out on the table. And over the weekend, you could grab one and answer it privately. But anyways, if we sat down, we all took turns grabbing them and answering them, and everyone gives a different answer. So you get different stories with each
Mhm.
answer. And my boys loved it. And my daughter-in-laws, like they could answer a question
Mhm.
and it wasn't intimidating. There were tears. We had laugh, we had tears. And pretty soon other people started asking, like, can I get those cards? Like, I'd like those cards. So I decided I'm going to print these cards. So I have them printed now. They're called Beyond. I don't know what to say.
Mm.
And they're not just for those of us that are grieving to help communicate and break that ice and have things to say, but if you were going to see a griever, like you could, if you were going to see your neighbor, pull out a card before you go and have that question in your mind. And when you go over, you could say, hey, it's the holidays. What was your husband's favorite tradition? What was his favorite movie? What would, they're simple questions,
Yes, that's
but
great.
but what was his favorite dessert? What was something you did with him when you first got married? Because there's only one question in there that says how did you pick your child's name? But the rest are very, all grief
Hmm.
and the sunflower is on them because Annie's favorite flower was a sunflower. So I am, yeah, writing and doing that. And this year I'm going to be doing a lot of writing on what I call the gifts of grief.
Mm. I will look forward to seeing that. And I will put the link to the cards. The link is on the article, but I'm going to put it on this YouTube interview as well. Thank you very much, Cheri, for your time, your openness, your transparency, your vulnerability, and your courage. And if you'd
Thanks
like
so
to
much for
read her
having me.
article, head over to butterflyliving.org. Thank you, Cheri.
Thank you.